Peace be upon you. From the Iraq Satellite Television channel, we present to you the newscast with the following main lines. The President and the leader, Saddam Hussein, headed a committee of high-ranking Iraqi officials. Mr. Mohammed Saeed Sahaf, the information minister, totaled all the casualties of the American and British invading forces. Arrival of tens of volunteers, of Yemeni volunteers, with suicide bombers from Yemen. The world is continuing their demonstrations against the American-British invasion against Iraq. Thousands of Turks receiving Colin Powell with a storm of demonstrations and condemnations. Now the details. In the name of Allah, kind and most merciful, Mr. President, the Mujahid, the leader, Saddam Hussein, may Allah keep him and protect him. A meeting with Taha Yassin Ramadan, the Vice President, Tariq Aziz, the head of the cabinet, Abdel Tawab Al-Mullah, the Deputy Prime Minister, and Mohammed Nagi Saleh, the Commerce Minister, Mahmoud Diab Ahmed, the Interior Minister, Amir Muhammad Rashid, the Oil Minister. And in the meeting, the attendees honored the President with the steadfastness of the Iraqi forces against the deceptive attackers, and they discussed several issues, political and military. The President issued the following order. Every person who arrests an agent or a spy or give information leads to their arrest with a 10 million dinars. The President, the leader, the Mujahid, Mr. Saddam Hussein, sent a message to Jalal Talbani. As-Sahaf reads the President's message. Dear brothers, citizens, peace be upon you. The leader, the President Saddam Hussein, may Allah keep him and protect him, sent a message to Jalal Talbani to attract his attention to the danger of his acts against the people of Iraq. This message is for history, so no one would say to us, tell us, after we defeat the American and the British invaders, that Iraq and the leader of Iraq, the President, the Mujahid Saddam Hussein, did not alarm and warn those who are standing on the edge of the fire pit before they fell in it. And I will read to you the text of the message of the leader, the President Saddam Hussein, may Allah keep him, to Jalal Talbani. In the name of Allah, kind and most merciful, from Saddam Hussein to Jalal Talbani. Hereforth, for quite some time now, we are hearing, reading, and learn about flirtation between you, America, and the Zionists, and others. And I always told myself that Jalal is known for his politics and tactics, special tactics. Maybe assumed that it's in his best interest to start a flirtation with these cursed entities. And we became accustomed to that, not because it's legitimate, but because it's understood when we know his personality. But this flirtation reached to a high and dangerous level, transformed from flirtation to receiving American forces and cooperating with them to open a north front in Iraq against the army and the people of Iraq, to lighten the burden and the difficulties that is facing the forces in other axes, and the casualties that they are taking, and the lower level of performance that is exposed to the whole world. It is supposed, based on legal and behavioral standards, to tell you that this is a very dangerous game if you continue it. And I tell you, whatever the things get bad between the elements of one people, at the end it will be solved, because we are one people, have one history. But those politics and those professional politicians, when they push the issues to the extent of cooperating with foreign enemies against their own people and their own country, then the issue now becomes very complicated. We have never seen throughout history that it is possible for any party to gain any honorable gains through these behaviors, or produce any product that is good and honorable and guarantees legitimate gains on national basis. And it is also confirmed that your cooperation with the invaders, if you do it, will become the same. America and the Zionists are trying in their tactics to drive a wedge in the relation between the one nation and the one people, and between the different countries and peoples of the area also. So every country and every group will draw their future in isolation of the rest of the parties or the other parties. And when the forces are divided and have self-competition, then it's easier to hit it and divide it, each on its own. Therefore, the America and the Zionist entity are pushing you today to a very bad position, where afterward they will force you to become paranoid and become very careful in your relation with your own country, which have all the future for you, and never work on the expense of your own country. And now we are going to become more paranoid, and you think you are defending yourself, of course, and while you're doing this, you are throwing yourself in a dirty pond, and your hand will be tied, and you will not be able to maneuver anymore. You are known for us that you don't take extreme risk without calculation, and you are not the kind of person that will lose your ability of maneuvering, regardless to the legality or the morality of these issues. Therefore, I advise you, do not take this risk that afterward you will regret. As long as you know that this leadership and this country is staying as is in the face of the invaders, and you could avoid the confrontation between your powers and the people of Iraq, and you can maneuver as long as you want, and we will understand your maneuvers. We will take notes, even though we don't think it's legal, because the right action for any honorable nationalist, honorable person is to fight with your country, with your people, with your leadership, with your government when they are exposed to foreign invasion or attack. I have warned you, and Allah is my witness. Saddam Hussein, 30th of Muharram, 1424 of Hijrah, 2nd of April, 2003. Copy of this message was sent to Mr. Masoud Mustafa Al-Barzani for information. Mr. President Saddam Hussein received a message from Mrs. Soraya Barzan as following. In the name of Allah, kind and most merciful. The victory will come from Allah. And when you see the people coming to the religion of Allah in large number, praise Allah and ask for His forgiveness. Allah's word is true. My dear uncle, I hope you're fine and that Allah is protecting you in these difficult times. And Allah will make us victorious because we are the worshippers of Allah and He loves His worshippers. So He will grant us victory against the enemies, God's willing. I want to make sure you're okay, fine. And I'm telling you, I'm not afraid of the enemies or their missiles. And if they reach Baghdad, that will be great honor to me because I will fight them. And I swear on that with the soul of my beloved mothers to know that I am a hero like you. It was always said that the friend is clear during the difficult times. And during these difficult times, God opened my eyes to see who really loves you, who are willing to sacrifice for you and for the nation, and those who are cowards looking for places to hide in it instead of fighting, such as the martyr Saif al-Mudhar. This war, not like any other war before. This is truly the jihad for Allah and the nation. It is war between the Muslims and the infidels. And the believers know that everything happens is with the will of Allah. And for that, I'm not afraid of them. And I'm not afraid of death. I will die for you, me and my daughter Ahlam. I hope to give me the good news about you and that you are okay. And I don't want anything from you but to know that I love you a lot. My love and my faithfulness to you, your daughter Thoraya Barzan. 31st of April 2003. Following is the reply of the President to this message. My daughter Thoraya, I have received your message in which you told me that if the enemy came to Baghdad, they will fail and be defeated, and that you will fight based on the orders of Allah. For Allah orders all the faithful to uphold jihad in these situations. And thanks to Allah that He gave us this great people of Iraq that are willing to fight for His beliefs, such as you, Thoraya. May Allah give you strength and defeat for the enemies. And Allah will protect you and the rest of the Iraqi women and make you soldiers defending truth and holiness, defending the Prophet, the land of the prophets and the holy sites. Let them come to Baghdad and you will defeat them, and they will go back losing to their country, leaving our country to the Iraqi people. Allahu Akbar. May live the great country of Iraq and our patience people, and live the spirit of Soraya in all other Iraqi women. Saddam Hussein, 29th of Muharram, 1424 Hijrah, 1st of April 2003. The General Leadership Command of the Armed Forces issued Decree number 14 reviewing the activities of the Army and the Party and the Fidai Saddam and the Quds Army. Here are the details of this decree. Decree number 14, issued by the General Command of the Armed Forces. In the name of Allah, kind and most merciful, you ask for the help of God and He will answer. I will give you thousands of angels. The word of Allah is truth. To raise the word of God and to reply for the call of jihad and defending our nation, Iraq, and the people of Iraq. Our armed forces continued their missions, and until last night and the beginning of today as following. 1. Our soldiers of the Special Forces of the Republican Guard continued their activities as following. A. Answering the call for jihad, the units of the Special Forces of the 26 of group of the Republican Army, as it is well known about them, of their steadfastness and strength. They attacked the formations of the both American and British formations in Al-Katb area, and they were able, because of their courage, to destroy 3 tanks and 8 personnel carriers with the soldiers inside, led to the chaos and fearfulness in their hearts and their leadership. And after they carried their missions, they returned to their base safely with their spoils, very proud, and thanks to Allah. B. Answering the call for jihad and the duty of every Iraqi toward Iraq the Great. Last night, the first day of April, strong formation of our courageous Republican Guards was a fast attack against the enemy in the midsection of the Euphrates River, and they were able to down a helicopter of Apache type, and they have seen it going down, burning, and 9 personnel carriers destroyed, including the soldiers inside. After carrying their mission, they went back to their bases from where they came. To you is the honor and the pride. All those are protecting our country. Number 2, the enemy tried to reach from the city of cities, the beautiful Basra, several times from the Zubair area, and they failed in all their attempts to reach their goals, where every time they were defeated and returned back outside of the city after they suffer from a large number of casualties in personnel and equipment. In all their attempts, they were always faced with the steadfastness of the 18th company of Tariq ibn Ziyad forces, and they went back all these times. And they succeeded in protecting their country. As a result of this fight, they downed 1 helicopter and 2 tanks, and our forces have the upper hand in this battle, and let the enemy know that death is waiting around every corner in Iraq. 3, the enemy tried to push a column on the highway in the area of Shomali, and they were confronted by the party fighters of Al-Hamza group, of Al-Hashimiyya branch, and they defeated them and turned them back. A. Destroyed 2 tanks. B. Destroyed 2 armored vehicles. C. Destroy 1 personnel carrier. D. Killed 5 soldiers of the enemy who tried to come close to our positions, and they failed in their progress. To you the honor, the men of principles, the front of the nation. Number 4, with great determination to defeat the enemy, formation of Al-Quds Army carried out the following activities. A. At 805 hours, If yesterday the Al-Liwa al-Nu'man of Al-Quds army engage the army forces in a heavy battle against the enemy. As a result, the enemy withdrew to the back and they lost a lot of casualties in personnel and equipment. 2 tanks, 5 personnel carriers at the outskirts of Al-Qadisiyah. B. Liwa al-Karmal engage from Al-Quds army, engage the enemy in Al-Qadisiyah area and have a heavy battle, led to the withdrawal of the enemy with great casualties in personnel and equipment as following. 2 tanks, 2 personnel carriers were destroyed. Be sure of victory, the returning army of Iraq. 5. Unmanned aeroplane tried to infiltrate the Al-Iskandariya area, and Al-Faruq company of Al-Iskandariya division downed the unmanned plane. To you, Allah will protect you of you Al-Ba'ath soldiers, and you will always be a symbol of courage. 6. The Fidaiyi Saddam groups continued their steadfastness and confrontation against the invaders. In the hour of 1003, the Fidaiyi Saddam group were able to destroy 1 personnel carrier with the soldiers inside and received or captured anti-tank weapons. To you the honor and the pride, O you soldiers of Saddam. 7. With the help of Allah and His support and with the trust of the Iraqi skills, in the hour 1400, we downed an American aeroplane in Abil Khasib. May Allah bless your hands, O courageous children of Iraq, to more victories. Until now, from yesterday to today, the casualties are 11 tanks, 27 personnel carrier, 1 aeroplane, 2 helicopters, 1 unmanned plane, 1 armored vehicle. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Thanks be to Allah, the source of victory, to the Mujahideen. The General Command of the Armed Forces, 30th of Muharram, 1424, 2nd of Nisan, April 2003. Mr. President, the leader, ordered the following. Each citizen that will arrest an agent or a spy or give any information will be given 10 million dinars. Mr. Muhammad Saeed al-Sahaf, in a press conference, added all the casualties and the casualties of the enemies and the military activities of Fidaiyi Saddam, the tribesmen and the Ba'ath fighters against the American and British forces. He added up all the numbers of the casualties of the American and British invading forces in all operation areas. Regarding the fighting fronts, the information that I was able to gather until 12:30 this afternoon is as following. Some of our army units have confronted in Karbala, in Najaf, in the Najaf area and the south of Najaf, confronted the American and British forces and destroyed 3 tanks and 8 armored vehicles and personnel carriers, and also another fighting commanders team, Iraqi commanders, managed to successfully was able to down Apache helicopter, and they have seen it going down in flame, and also destroyed 9 armored vehicles. Other militias and fighters of the Arab social parties and some tribesmen and all the volunteers also had confronted one of the American columns and destroyed 2 tanks. That's in the south of Al-Qadisiyah provinces, and the Nasiriyah. Destroyed 2 tanks and 5 armored vehicles. And from Al-Quds army, as for the Quds army units, the Al-Karmal regiment also participated in the battle and also destroyed 2 tanks and 1 personnel carrier. In the south, there was an American column trying once more to cross the city of Zubair, cross a bridge of Al-Zubair, and it was confronted by the Iraqi side. They destroyed another Apache helicopter and 2 personnel armored carriers. In the region of Mid-Euphrates, there was a very vicious battle south of Al-Najaf and south of Karbala, and in the area of Abi al-Khasib, which is on the outskirts of Basra, there was also strong battles continuing until now. The first information that we have received about this battle was that the enemy sustained heavy casualties, and in Al-Nasiriyah, in the area of Al-Shatra, army units and the Fidayi Saddam was able to arrest several American mercenaries and destroyed 2 tanks and 1 water tanker. The evil invaders targeted the Red Crescent hospitals near Baghdad, which led to the death of several innocent citizens inside the hospital and the medical team in the hospital also. It is worth noticing that it is considered one of the well-known medical centers that supplies services for mothers and pregnant women. It was targeted by missiles to uncover and reveal the evil intentions of the invaders, American invaders. It also shows that they are committing crimes against humanity racial in nature by targeting the civilian centers. A security source mentioned the following: in the name of Allah, kind and most merciful. Statement for the Iraqi people. First, because what we are facing in this stage against the most severe and vicious attack in history by the Zionist Americans and British. We found out that they are using the cell phones used by some of the agents and the spies of the American and British intelligence, sending through it important information from the inside of Iraq. There is a large number of this type of phones, cell phones, that can reach overseas. We would like for you to submit these cell phones to the security authority, and it will be you will receive a receipt, and you will receive it back after the battle and after the victory. That will enable the authorities to focus on the spying communications. And there is also other number of people are dealing with the enemy, and they received these devices to use it for spying purposes, and they are ordered to submit them before it's too late and become under the severe punishments of the law. We are asking the children of our nation to tell about anyone who have such devices, and he will be given, or she will be given, 5 million dinars. The battles of this great war by the tribesmen and the Fidai Saddam and the regular forces of our armies are everywhere against the Americans and the British, which caused a horrible surprise for the enemy and failing their plans against the invading forces of the Arab and Islamic lands. Within these battles, few of the Iraqi tribesmen aborted parachuting forces in the Nineveh area. Al Jazeera TV covered several pictures and films showing the citizens taking several armored vehicles and ammunition, and killing 10 British soldiers and injuring another 10, destroying 14 tanks and large amounts of ammunition, weapons, and 3 armored vehicles that could be used again. To express their happiness, the citizens, according to Al Jazeera reporter, have carried out a celebration to express their nationalistic feelings about this battle, and they showed us how they accomplished this victory in this battle in northern of Iraq. The citizens, or the Iraqi citizens, used one of the armored vehicles in their celebrations, and they rided on the vehicle throughout the city streets. Also, they carried their spoils of war, such as different weapons and bombs and ammunitions and gas mask that was left by the British in the battle after they were defeated on the hands of the heroes of Iraq. The correspondent of Al Jazeera also said that the citizens have seen several helicopter aeroplanes coming down to pick up their injured and dead bodies. Tens of the Yemeni volunteers arrived to Baghdad to carry suicidal operations with their brothers in Iraq against the American-British invading forces. Mr. Taha Yassin Ramadan declared in his press conference yesterday that the number of the Arab volunteers that wants to participate against the invading forces reached over 6,000 volunteers. More than half are suicidal. more than 10,000 people held a demonstration in Taz, Yemen, against the American-British invasion. Representatives of all political parties and powers were represented in this demonstration, and they stayed within graves to express their anger. Also in Alexandria, Egypt, thousands are out on angry demonstration. The religious leaders who participated in the demonstration declared that every Muslim should participate in this jihad because it is against every Muslim in the world. And in the United States, thousands of demonstrations in Washington, D.C. Moved to the Black House asking and demanding to stop the invasion of Americans and British and to withdraw the invading forces from the Gulf. Yemen renewed their demands to stop the invasion against Iraq and the return to the international law and withheld the United Nations resolutions. The Yemeni newspapers, according to the government of Yemen, confirmed that these attacks against Iraq will lead the area as a whole to a destruction, and said that the Yemeni cabinets confirmed and repeated their demand that this issue should be returned back to the international law and UN resolution in order to have a peaceful outcome. Kofi Annan of the United Nations mentioned that the Security Council did not give its approval for the war against Iraq, and the only subject that was discussed was the disarmament. He also confirmed during his answer in a press conference in New York that the issue that was discussed was the disarmament, and that the Security Council did not give a green light for this war. Mr. Blix, the head of MOVEC, renewed his criticism to the American administration in its attack against Iraq before the ending of the inspectors' mission in Iraq. He said that those inspectors were not giving enough time to finish their job. According to Le Soir, the Belgium newspaper, Blix said that the American administration waged the war without waiting to the results of the inspectors' work. The Latin American people of Latin descent started their demonstrations against the administration after they found out that there is a higher percentage of Latin or Hispanic American casualties, disproportionately higher because of the racial policy of the American administration, where they push people of African American and Hispanic descent to this burning fire of Iraq. And they usually put them in the front lines so they die by the fire of the Iraqis. Colin Powell was met by a storm of demonstrations as soon as he arrived to Turkey, where thousands of Turkeys have demonstrated against the American invasion against Iraq. And it was described that this is the worst reception an American foreign minister have received in an alliance, country of alliance to the United States. The demonstrations have slogans and signs asking Powell to leave Turkey, and other slogans against the U.S. and Britain. Khabar Turk, the Turkish news media, said that a military base in south of Turkey have a huge fire at the moment where they were receiving American planes. And they said that the American plane, one of the American plane was damaged because of the fire. The UNICEF of the United Nations warned against the dangers of the Iraqi-British invasion against Iraq, against pregnant women and children. And he added that the UNICEF wants to play a role, and that the major problem is the drinking water, like in El Basra. And he said there are more than 12 million people do not have drinking water in Al Basra for more than 1 week because of the invasion. And there is 300,000 children below the age of 5 that might die as a result of this. And there is also more than 500 Iraqi child needed psychological support because of this savage attack. The final news. The Bush administration interrogated thousands of the Iraqi people who live in the United States after their failure and destruction and high casualties in Iraq. Our source said that the FBI and other security apparatuses interrogated more than 11,000 Iraqis who lives in the United States to obtain information by force to try to help them in their failing attack. The news from the Iraq Satellite Television.